All right, guys, this is Dr. Sean again, and we're doing number 4 of skeletal muscles. This is like chapter 9, I think, of your book. So let's get started with muscle terms and muscle movements. Okay, so there's a couple terms that we need to know right off the bat with muscles. When we're talking about muscles, we're talking about skeletal muscles in general. Remember, there's about 600 of them in the body. You only have to know about 20 or 30 of them, and you probably already know 10 right off the top of your head. You know things like the biceps and the triceps and the latissimus dorsi and the pecs. The pectoralis, there's a major and a minor, and the trapezius and stuff like that. So we're going to go into a little bit more about the muscles. Now, there's something about muscles that's pretty interesting. There's always what's called, no, not always, there are some muscles that are filiform, or they're called spindle-shaped. Remember spindle, which is the shape of the smooth muscles? There's those. There's like pennate, which look like a feather, like a pen, like a feather pen. There are some that are wide and some that are narrow and all those kind of things. But we're not going to worry about that too much. I want you to catch this thing. So we have a muscle which has a belly. Okay, in the middle is the belly. And put it right here, B, belly of the muscle. And it's going to have an origin, which we're going to put here, and an insertion. Just come insert. Okay, insertion is here and origin is here. And in the muscle, we're going to talk about what an easy muscle to do, which is this one right here, which is called the biceps, because it has two heads. Ceph is a ceph, like a cephalopod is an octopus. It's a head foot is what that actually means. And so we have the biceps has two heads. Okay, heads are always at the top, right, of the body, or the superior part of the body. And it has one insertion down the bottom. So it has an origin, two origins, and one insertion, and a belly. So the insertion, down here, okay, which is going to be on the radius, so it is out there, the insertion is always going to be distal, okay, or lateral on the body. So yeah, it's always some kind of distal, some kind of lateral, or inferior, so depending on how you're looking at it. But it's always going to be more away from the midline. It's going to be also further out on the body. That's the insertion, because it's going to pull my arm this way in flexion. When it contracts, it's going to flex my elbow towards, so I can hit myself. And the insertion is always going to be more proximal and distal, right? And it's always going to be more medial. So even like in through here, the pectoralis major, for example, or the pectoralis minor underneath it, pectoralis major here, the origin is in through here, and the insertion is up on the humerus, so I can pull it forward. And that's the thing we have with all of these muscles. So we're always going to have origin, insertion, and then you're going to have origin, insertion, and belly. Those are the three main parts. Now, that gives us kind of like the action. Usually the things you got to know about muscles is going to be the origin, the insertion, the action, and the innervation, if we want to get really detailed into it. But we're not going to worry about the innervation at this point. We're going to do that in the next chapter. This chapter, we do want to talk about some things, some of the muscles we have. Now, there's difference when they attach. The insertion or the origin is attached by a tendon, right? Not a ligament, a tendon. The tendon attaches muscle to muscle, or a muscle to bone, and a ligament attaches bone to bone. Ligaments, bone to bone, tendons, muscle to bone. Okay, so we're going to go over a whole bunch of other terms. Okay, guys, now that we're here in muscle land, we're going to talk about a few different things. Now, we have we talked about the origin, we talked about the insertion, we talked about the belly, we talked about the tendons and what those are based on the muscle system, and we got to talk about all these different, which I'll put over here, like down like this, like right here somewhere, something over here. It's going to be turned around because when I write things, I have to turn things around. We're going to talk about flexion, extension, rotation, circumduction, adduction, abduction, dorsiflexion, plantar flexion, supination, pronation, levitation, elevation, not levitation, we don't float, and depression. Okay, and there's other things too. Now we're also going to talk about synergists, antagonists, and prime muscles. So I'll start with prime muscles. A prime muscle is the main mover of a joint. So if we're like bending my elbow, okay, so I'm flexing, I'm going to bend, I'm going to close the angle. So this is, remember, anatomical position, that's where we start with everything, right? So the arm is straight, basically out here, and I flex. I'm going to use the bicep brachii. The bicep brachii is going to contract and it's going to flex or close the angle of my elbow. Now, there's muscles that help it. The brachioradialis and the coracobrachialis, depending on what I'm doing, if I'm really lifting my arm. Those are synergists to the bicep brachii. Now, the antagonist is the other side. That's the triceps brachii. In order for this to contract, this has to relax. If they don't, it locks. Okay, that's called an isometric. Or isotonic, it's not moving. Isotonic is what we're doing here, on the same tone. Now, as we're doing this, we flex all the way. That's contracting this one and relaxing this one. If we want to extend, which is opening the angle, we're going to contract this one as this becomes now the prime mover, and this becomes the antagonist. So we relax this one and contract this one, we have extension. There we go. That's how basic muscle work. So no muscle is a prime mover until it acts. Okay, and it depends on which one you're looking at the time. It's usually the biggest guy in the neighborhood. That's the prime mover. All the rest are synergists. They kind of help it along. Now you can isolate. If you've done weightlifting or something, you learn to isolate different parts of it by turning the arm or what have you, something like that. That makes a big difference as well in your workouts. Next one, so we have flexion, which closes the joint. So to flex the knee, we're going to put our heel towards our rump. To flex the head, we're going to contract the sternocleidomastoids. There's a bunch of strap muscles in the front. We can contract it down. That's a flexion move. Extension is this way. We have like spinal extensors, okay? Rotation, here's a hard one. So rotation, if we take my arm this way and we rotate my hand, this is rotation. These are called, actually this is called supination because you can hold a bowl of soup. And this is called pronation because you can hold a basketball. Over here, hold a basketball like, basketball players are pro. They pronate. They supinate, they eat soup. You gotta hold this way. You pour it out, you ain't got no soup. Supination, pronation. Rotation, okay, so this is rotation of my humerus here, rotating this way, rotating or whatever, rotating my head. Now circumduction is this way. You make a circle. So this is rotation, this is circumduction, making a circle. This is rotation, this is circumduction, okay? And those are all good stretches. Ooh, makes you dizzy if you've had a bunch of coffee like I've had just now. We have other things called dorsiflexion and plantar flexion, mainly only with the foot, guys. So the dorsiflexion towards the dorsum, remember dorsal fin towards the back. So you can't have dorsiflexion this way, but this is not plantar flexion, okay? This is just flexion of the forearm. The dorsiflexion and plantar flexion of the foot. Plantar flexion towards the plants, towards the ground. Dorsiflexion brings the toes up. Next one down is supination, which we did, supinate and pronate. And the last ones we do is elevation and depression. So elevation and depression doesn't happen with all the muscles. It only happens with the shoulder and the jaw. So we can depress the jaw this way, or we depress the shoulders down this way, or elevate the shoulders, or elevate the jaw. Like this, depress, elevate. Depress, elevate, got it? Okay, we can retract and protract. We can retract and protract. Those are the things only with the jaw. You're not going to see them anywhere else, okay? So that's your motions. And what I want you to do for the answer of the question on this one, because remember we're doing 4 questions. I'm going you guys to watch these things. And this is how we're doing our anatomy class attendance and stuff like that. So the question I want you to answer is, let's see, what is the antagonist to the quadriceps muscle, which is the muscles on the front of the thigh? The quadriceps muscles is 4 different muscles. It's going to be the rectus femoris. Rectus means straight. Okay, femoris is thigh, the femur, and it's going to be the vastus lateralis, which means a vast wide one on the outside, a vastus intermedius on the inside, intermediate to them, and then there's a vastus medialis, and that's going to extend the knee. So what is the what's it called? The the antagonist to those guys, which is actually going to be the hamstrings. And there's a couple of 3 muscles there. There's called the semimembranosus and semitendinosus and the biceps femoris. So your question is, what is the antagonist to the quadriceps? You guys have a good one. Do your homework, and we'll see you guys in class, or online in class, whatever the heck it is. And that's all we're going to do for this one. Now, the rest of the muscles that you guys have, there's a bunch of them that's going to be in your book. We're going to have, if I can, like off the top of my head, we're going to do the frontalis, the occipitalis, or the epicranius, which is up through here, the masseter, the temporalis, the rizoris, the zygomaticus, platysma is this guy here. Sternocleidomastoid is this one over here. Trapezius, which is a trapezoid shape. Okay, that's how it's named. Deltoid, which is a delta shape. Like this is a delta. That's a delta shape. Well, it's not a delta. Close enough. It looks like a part of a triangle. Planes, they fly in a delta formation. That's a deltoid right through here. Bicep brachii, tricep brachii. Wrist extensors and wrist flexors. All the flexors on the inside, the extensors on the outside. What other ones? You're going to have pectoralis major, pectoralis minor, latissimus dorsi on the back and side, latissimus lateral, dorsi on the back. It's lateral on the back. The way they named these things sounds very exotic, but it's really not. It's just what they saw. So this one has 2 heads up here. It's called the biceps, and it's on the arm. It's called the brachium. That's the bicep brachii. Other ones too, the rectus, which means to stand up straight. Rectus, like erect, just to be up straight, is the rectus abdominis, which are the straight ones. You have the external oblique, which are like this. You put your hands in your pockets this way, and then the internal obliques go the opposite. And then you have transversarius, which goes around you this way and holds all your belly in, so you don't get a dad bod. Apparently, I got to work on that. Been doing a lot of board eating, but other ones too. Gluteus Maximus. If there's ever a maximus, there has to be a minimus. If there's ever an anterior, there has to be a posterior. If there's a superior, there has to be an inferior. That's the only reason we named them that way. Okay, so that's something to understand in the basics of anatomy. Okay, other things, a lot of shapes involved. Gastrocnemius, which is the calf muscle, the back of the calf, looks like gastroc, like the tummy is gastro. Tibialis, on the tibia, the front of the shin. The tibialis anterior, there's going to be a tibialis posterior, right? There's also going to be other ones like the, we talked about the quads, I think earlier, the quadriceps femoris, and the hamstrings. Hamstring is a little different one because you're hung by the hamstring. That's how they hang a ham. And I think that's basically it. Other ones, like on the spine, there's actually 5 layers on the spine. They're called the paraspinals, and there's like the longissimus and the I can't remember, iliocostalis, and a bunch of other ones there, and multifidi and spinalis and rotatories and transversarii and stuff like that. So there are 5 layers there. A lot of people don't even know about them. We don't need to get into them. Deep muscles, I want you guys to know. Piriformis in the rump. It's right in the back pocket. And psoas, P-S-O-S-A-S, P-S-O-S-A-S, psoas. Other ones too I want you guys to look up is, go look up the pain spasm cycle. And I did another video. I'll try to put it up right here somewhere because we're at the end of the video. And you guys can look that one up. So remember, the question is, what is the antagonist to the quadriceps muscle? You guys have a good one, and we'll take care. Give us a thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever, and subscribe, and we'll see you later. Next, we got to go into neurology. So I think this is the last one for this part of the class. It is. So anyway, bye.